Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Thursday, February 22nd, 2018. I'm Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and change. You guys remember Steve Wiltfong. He was on break, cooling down after an unbelievable run covering the last class. We are on to the class of 2019 now. Steve's chock full of info. Steve, how are you? How was your break? How's the weather in Indianapolis?
Man, it was 60 2 days ago. Got to take my family out on a walk/scooter ride with the 3-year-old. It's in the 40s today and wet. But excited to be back on talking Ohio State as we turn the page to 2019 here on the Morning 5.
So the next few months, we're just going to be getting used to the names. You guys have heard some. We did the comparison game last week with Bill Kurlick. We're moving more into Steve's wheelhouse here. First guy I want to talk about is Samson James, star running back out of Indiana, and I will admit this. I was burned by Rod Smith. I was one who thought Rod Smith from Fort Wayne, Indiana, would step in and play right away at Ohio State, and that did not happen. Some people thought it was the quality of play at Indiana. He just wasn't ready, and he never materialized the way we thought. Please convince me why Samson James isn't just thriving against weaker competition.
Rod's career at Ohio State was weird in the sense that he's in the NFL now, and he's a good NFL player. So it was. I mean, he's on your team, and so you're going to be critical or whatever. But he's a legit NFL running back, and so when you think back on Rod's Ohio State career, it didn't go as well as it should have based on how talented he is for various reasons that we could probably have a whole show on, but. So it wasn't because of lack of talent that he didn't play well at Ohio State or produce like he thought he was going to, because there have been less talented backs that have had better careers at Ohio State than Rod Smith, who is in the league and is probably going to be in the league long enough to get the pension. With Samson James, he's the number 8 running back according to the 24/7 Sports Composite. I think if you asked around the Woody, he would be in the top 2 or 3. He is a coveted running back recruit. They went and saw him every week during January. Urban Meyer went and saw him once. Tony Alford's been out numerous times, and he's a priority guy for Ohio State. He's been to campus for a game. He's going to come back next month for another visit, and then he's going to take his official visits in the spring and make a decision prior to his senior year. And Ohio State's in the top 2 or 3 for Samson James, who is a guy that rushed for 1,800 yards in the best conference and in the best division in Indiana, second best conference, and he returns kicks and catches the football, and really a mature kid. And his older brothers are really talented guys too. One signed with Auburn, one signed with Georgia, was SEC Freshman Defensive Player of the Year, and then had another brother that played at Marshall. He's a guy that Ohio State covets and they want in their class, and he likes the Buckeyes a lot right now, and that's where my crystal ball is, but it's not a slam dunk.
Who else is in the mix?
Well, Michigan, Notre Dame, Indiana and Purdue doing a good job recruiting him, and he's visiting both them this weekend. Indiana and Purdue both have really good their running back coaches really work hard on the trail. And so they're doing a good job with Samson, who lives an hour away from both schools. And why wouldn't you want to go see a basketball game at Indiana or Purdue? It's 2 good atmospheres. Obviously, Indiana's not playing well, but still a good atmosphere there for basketball games. But those schools are doing a good job. But in the end, unless Samson's unique to other recruits, he's going to go to Ohio State, Notre Dame, or Michigan, unless one of these new offers from Florida State or Georgia piques his interest. I think he'll eventually get Alabama, and we'll see what happens from there.
You don't need to. Getting offers from schools like that when you're in Indiana, that's a very strong statement. So it's one thing to have the Midwest powers in it. When you start to get the big Southern schools come in for a skill player, you got something special. So
the family's they're just freaky kids. He's got a little brother that's a sophomore, Nathaniel James, who is a D tackle, but he's 5'11", 6 foot, 250 pounds, ultra quick, but he's squatting 630, benching 360. Just doesn't have the height yet, but just to give you some insight on the family and the physical gifts they have. that Nathaniel James kid, he, in my opinion, is a MAC D lineman at his size right now. But hell, if they were playing pro-style offenses, he could be a fullback, and maybe he'll play some fullback and be in front of his brother this fall. And he ran 4.7 at the Best of the Midwest Combine, in addition to those freaky traits. So they're just Samson James. There was some debate on the front row where he fits in among Trey Sanders, Noah Cain. Ohio State's taking Samson James at any point he wants to commit, and they think he's just as good as those guys.
That's interesting. I was going to ask you about Noah Cain and Trey Sanders. Obviously, are the two backs at IMG. We talked about Noah Cain at length on Tuesday. That's very interesting that they hold him on the same level. Strong statement. Let's talk about some other guys that you have flipped your crystal ball on and kind of introduced them to the group. We are headed back to St. Louis for a receiver.
Yeah, Jamison Williams out of St. Louis, sub-11 second guy in the 100-meter dash. Ohio State's been on him as long as anybody. Likes Coach Zach Smith, likes Coach Urban Meyer. You look at kind of where he lives and that proximity. Ohio State's done well for their top targets in St. Louis. So early in the process, kid's got over 30 offers, but I like the Buckeyes right now.
And then another kind of interesting spot, Kentucky for Milton Wright. You have flipped the crystal ball.
There's no question that Ohio State's the leader for Milton Wright right now. Who's another one of those freaky track kids, sub-11 in the 100, over 20-foot long jumper, over 6-foot high jumper, if I remember correctly. I think he was like a 6'3" high jumper. I kind of forget the details. I just know he's a freak athlete. Ohio State's had him in camp, and you turn on his highlight clips and you see the athleticism dominate there, and terrific speed. The competition isn't, what Samson James is playing, but the athleticism is stacks up with anybody there, Milton Wright. And I know, talking to people close to him, that Ohio State's made the biggest impression so far.
Yeah, 6'3". Always good to have that big outside receiver. Another receiver they're looking at, David Bell.
Yeah, out of Indianapolis. He's the leading scorer on the number one basketball team in the state, undefeated. Hoops is still king in Indianapolis high school basketball. I'd put that up against any state in America, any region. David Bell is the best player on the best team right now. Obviously, there's a kid named Romeo who's arguably the best guard in the country, who's a couple hours down the road in this state. But David Bell having a terrific junior basketball season. Took a football visit to Penn State about a month ago. Really enjoyed that, but his focus is on basketball right now. Ohio State's a contender, Michigan's a contender, Penn State's a contender. Then he likes Iowa, Indiana, and Purdue. But I think that he's a receiver. He's a top 10 receiver in this class, and he'll be a guy that Ohio State will be all over.
But he's no threat to play basketball in college?
I don't think so. I mean, he's your 6'2", 6'3". Well, I mean, hell, maybe he is. Maybe I'm undervaluing him. But he's a physical kid at 6'3", and he's quick, has outstanding ball skills, and that stuff translates to the basketball court. And he's just a really smart person, so he's probably a high IQ basketball player, if I had to guess.
Yep.
But yeah, he's a kid that Stanford's recruiting for football. That he's gonna, Stanford's gonna offer him, and he's gonna, he would get into Stanford, I would think. So that's the type of young man David Bell is.
Sounds like someone we need. All right, the last guy I want to talk about is, and I said this when I talked to Bill last week, the most physical perimeter player I have ever seen on tape. I don't have any. There are very few times when you watch a tape, I literally asked you before the show, what position is this guy going to play, because he's so just unbelievably versatile and strong. Bru McCoy out of California, 6'3", well over 200 pounds. Is he a receiver? I don't know. Is he Darren Lee? I don't know. Tell me a little bit about Bru McCoy. I know you've done a little extra work on him.
Well, I think he's the best player in the country. I know we have Zach Harrison ranked number 1. And Zach Harrison's a unique, freaky prospect. But Bru McCoy, the reason why he's not number 1 right now is because we haven't settled in on a future position for him, so it's hard to gauge where he's going to get drafted. So we just have him number 3 or number 4. But he's the best high school football player in the country, and I think he was last year as a junior. And he played on the same team as Amon-Ra St. Brown and JT Daniels. I watched him dominate games as an outside backer. He's, a terrific receiver, 6'3", 215 pounds. And I'll leave you with this, Daniel. I think that USC, Ohio State, and Oklahoma are in the best position for him. Easy to crystal ball the local Trojans. But his dad, I believe, is from Virginia. Both his parents were athletes at Northern Illinois. Dad played football. Mom played volleyball. So Dad's uber successful in the sales. And so if the kid found a home outside of California, I don't think it would be a problem for him to leave. And Ohio State's doing all the right things early for Bru McCoy.
Whatever Ohio State has to do and stay in the mix all the way up until the hat comes on a year from now, this is a guy they have to be invested in.
If I had to project it, I think he'll visit twice. I think he'll take an unofficial and an official.
Yeah, we officially want him here, so make sure he finds that out subliminally. We appreciate Steve stopping by. Have a good one, Bucknutters.
Take care, guys.